We're just going to allow everyone to come in. Everyone, please come in, have a seat. If you're eating your lunch or drinking some tea or coffee, please sit, relax. This is Transformational Tuesday. We are here speaking about women-focused issues in leadership and law enforcement, and you are in the right place at the right time. You do not want to miss this phenomenal woman leader, this sheriff, Kandy Fatheree. We are going to get started because we don't have a lot of time. And I want to introduce you to Miss Fatheree, Sheriff Fatheree. I've had an opportunity to speak with her on one-on-one, and I'm already getting so many nuggets and wisdom as we're moving forward in this day. So I'm glad that you are here with us. So just a little bit about the sheriff before we delve deep inside. I've already said Sheriff Kandy Fatheree. She assumed the office of Summit County Sheriff on January 4th, 2021. And for the first time in Summit County's 181-year history, the county elected a female sheriff. She is the first female sheriff in that county's history and only one of 3 in the entire state. Sheriff Fatheree grew up in Springfield Township, one of 6 children born to working class parents. Her journey to the sheriff's office began in grade school when she, at the age of 9 years old, knew she wanted to be in law enforcement. When the sheriff was a divorced single mother in her mid-30s, she went into law enforcement and attended the police academy and corrections academy in the early 1990s. After graduating from the police academy, she worked for the Lakemore Police Department for 2 years as its first and lone female officer. You heard that. Before being hired in 1995 by the Summit County Sheriff's Office, where she is now running it. Despite facing many obstacles along the way, she rose through the ranks with the Sheriff's Office to reach the level of captain and was tasked with managing the organization's $44 million budget and finance division. The sheriff realized her dream of becoming sheriff in 2008 after graduating from the FBI National Academy for Executive Leadership in Quantico, Virginia. She realized that she was every bit as smart and strong as men who held the position of leadership. So when the former leader or sheriff of the Summit County Sheriff's Office decided not to run and be reelected, she took over and she ran and won. She now oversees an office with more than 330 deputies and 100 civilian employees. Sheriff Fatheree remarried and has been married for 30 years. That's a great feat as well. And has 3 adult children, 6 grandchildren, and soon to be 3 great-grandchildren. She earned an associate degree in criminal justice from Eastern Gateway Community College. With that, I want to introduce to you all Sheriff Kandy Fatheree. Hello there, Sheriff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is really an honor for me to have the opportunity to speak with you guys today.
No, we really appreciate you taking out the time way in Ohio to speak with us. This is truly an honor, and I just want to say from all of us in the San Francisco Sheriff's Office, thank you. And with that, we want to say that you, as I've read, you are truly breaking barriers. The first sheriff, the first and lone sheriff in your other police department. I know with that being the first female in the sheriff's office, there had to be a lot of resiliency and challenges. Can you tell us some of the things that you faced as you rose to the top?
Oh, wow. Well, probably the same things that many other women face in law enforcement. Men who don't want you there, don't think that you're capable, and intentionally put things in your way to prevent you from being able to either feel as though you're a part of the organization, or even be able to grow and advance within supervision. When I was a police officer at Lakemore, I had just a couple of young men. Most of the guys were pretty accepting, but there were a couple of them that were like, there is no way that she's going to be able to do the job, until after I ended up having to break up a fight. Obviously, I ended up with a black eye, but I broke the fight up. That I had to earn their respect. And it's a shame that women have to earn it when men automatically have it. So just probably the same barriers overall that most other women face. It's just that I think the way that you handle it is, for me, I put the blinders on and ignored them and kept on going. I knew what my goal was, and I wasn't letting anyone stop me. So,
Sheriff, I think you really hit the head on the nail. You were focused, driven, you knew what your purpose was, and you just kept moving forward. With that, you became the sheriff, the first female sheriff in Summit County, and kudos to you for that. Do you find now that you are the sheriff and the female sheriff, are there any differences now with some of the men who are in your organization? Do you find that they're more respectful, or are there still challenges that you all are seeing in the department?
there are definitely challenges. I call them my old crusties. I have a group of men who just are very, very unhappy and resistant to women being in the organization. They feel that we don't belong here, and they still have a real problem, not just with other women, but now especially me. And I have done everything that I can within the organization to make it fair and equitable. I am very intentional in my recruitment for women and minorities. I've changed the way that we do things. I don't accept we've always done it that way as an excuse. And in promotions and in positions that I have the ultimate decision on who receives that position. In those things, what we've done differently is that we've put together a committee that interviews and then picks the best candidate. And what's beginning to happen is all the women in the organization who have been working really hard and going above and beyond for years, they're beginning, that cream has risen to the top. And when you're asking the same set of questions, and you see that the women have longer resumes, more training, have done more things for the organization than the men, and then so they're promoted or they receive a position. Those same men who have done very little in the career now are they're really grumbling, because they're just saying, well, it's because she's a woman and she's just doing this for all women. No, I'm doing it fairly the way it should have always been. And so I get a lot of resistance.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I read in some of the articles about women and promotion, and how for us as women, we do all that we can to make ourselves accessible and promotable. Whereas most men, they promote or think, they could take all the tests just because. But for us as women, we always want to set ourselves high. The expectations are high on ourselves. And so would you encourage more women to just really go for it, or how would that work for you? What's your advice?
Oh, absolutely, go for it. Figure out what it is that you want. Know what your goal is. Set your path. Put the blinders on and follow that path. Do not let anyone tell you that you're not good enough, that you're not strong enough, that you're not smart enough. Do it. You just don't let anybody tell you no. Put the blinders on and don't take no for an answer. Go get what you want. And that's the only way that we're going to continue to advance in this organization. Across the entire nation, there will always be someone trying to prevent you from succeeding. because of their own fears or inadequacies or their own biases. Don't let anyone stop you. If you've got a goal, set a plan and go for it.
Thank you for that. You know, you reminded me when you said the statement of you being the sheriff, that other people, mainly men, will say things to say that the women promoted just because they were women. Maybe not understanding that those type of comments really erode and lessen the you know, the women doing such positive work. It really erodes that. It lessens it somehow. And I would like for you to tell other women, as they're focusing, what are some of the other things that they can do to make themselves promotable and ready for the next level?
I think most importantly, you need to read and take account of leadership books. I'm a huge self-help person. I'm also an audio learner. I don't, reading is one thing, but if I hear things, I remember them. So I listen to books about leadership, and I try to genuinely dive into myself to see where my strengths are and continue to improve on my strengths. I am not going to concentrate on my weaknesses. That if you build those strengths up, that's what's going to shine. So I think that women have to they have to look at the leadership portion of it, but they also have to have good communication skills, try to get along with others, learn the job, every aspect of it. My earlier in our conversation, when it was one-on-one, I said that in my life before law enforcement, I had a boss who in our organization, in order for me to advance, I had to replace myself and I had to train that person to replace me. So it was one of those deals of I had to find a person that I could train and encourage them to develop and teach them what I did so that I could advance to the next step. I encourage all women to figure out what the next step is, what is needed for that next step, and then excel in it. Plan, train, teach yourself, and don't let anybody stop you. But you have to keep doing that all the way through.
Wow,
And I think,
sure.
well, one other thing is a mentor. I told you my boss did that, okay? You need to find a mentor.
That's where I was going. I was exactly going in that direction because I believe it's so important that as we are getting ourselves together, we need mentors to give us a good challenge every once in a while, give us that direction that we need. How important is the mentorship for people, but for women especially?
Women most specifically, I think we have a tendency to tear ourselves down, and we have a tendency to tear each other down. I think you have to find a good mentor, and it does not have to be a woman. But the critical portion of a mentor is someone that you trust, that you genuinely believe that they have your interest at heart, somebody that you respect and respects you, and that can get you to the level that where you want to go. Okay. So you try to reach up and find that person. And sometimes you may have to decide who they are, and you may have to keep on going after them and sell yourself to them for them to finally accept that they'll do this with you. Because being a mentor, it takes a lot of time. But you want someone that can tell you the truth about yourself and genuinely give you good information and options. Because sometimes you don't need them to tell you what to do. You just need them to help you think of options, things that you could do to move forward. So I think a mentor, if you want to grow and develop in law enforcement, is critical, and finding the right mentor and mentors, because you may have many of them as you move in different levels within your career.
Sheriff, that is such good advice. It's reminding me of when you said that we should basically have a broad life, or, do different things in the law enforcement. So some mentors may be from the range, if we want to really get into that, or from SWAT, or, so we have to really, as women, think outside the box and really learn these new type of skill sets if we don't have them, to get outside of our comfort zone, to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, to learn these skills so that one day we could be like you, promote up, push ourselves, keep focused, and know what our purpose is. I want to pivot a little bit because doing some research in who you are, you have lived a very rich life. I don't know if people really caught the fact that you knew at 9 years old that you wanted to be in law enforcement. What at 9 years old really drove you to know what you wanted to do at such an early age?
Well, it's interesting because what happened to me, I genuinely, I think it altered my whole life path. So as a little girl, we were pretty poor. And long story short, there was a man that was a neighbor, and he began sexually molesting me. That lasted for about 2 years. As all sexual predators, they groom you and feed you a bunch of lies, and you're afraid. They make you afraid to tell. And then what would end up happening to me was, not only did I never tell, but it absolutely destroyed my confidence in myself for a very long time. So at the age of 9, when this was happening, all I wanted was for someone to rescue me. And the bottom line is, as you grow up, you think, who is it that always comes to the rescue? It's always law enforcement. So I wanted to become a cop because I wanted to go after all the predators in the world, and I wanted to hold them accountable, and I wanted to save all the people from ever having to feel or experience what I had to feel and experience. And it really changed the whole trajectory of my life. For a lot of years, it was not good, made a lot of bad decisions. But as a divorced mother at the age of 33, that's when I decided, look, I'm not doing, I am no longer going to do what others want me to do. I'm going to do what I want me to do. And that's when I moved into all the things I needed to do to become a law enforcement officer. So being a victim of child sexual abuse, that made my decision. And it actually, I think overall, surviving that made me a stronger person. And as I got older, and of course you experience more difficult things in your lifetime, you take them, and I just hit a point where it was like, you know what, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to move forward, and no one's going to stop me. I'm not letting anybody stop me. And I put that in my mind, and I kept going forward, and I never stopped. I don't know that I ever will.
I don't think you ever will either. I'm so, as I told you before we started, I really appreciate you telling your story, because that's a story that many women have that haven't been told. And you said something like, we need to tell our own narrative. We need to tell our own stories. This is your story. This was a tragedy that happened, but you didn't stay in that state, and you moved out of that to do something great, to be the sheriff and to make changes in your own department. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your story, because I know that your story is touching other people's lives who are listening to this right now, or who will be listening to it later on another social media. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Of course. So with that, with looking up, doing my research, I noticed when you were sworn in that there was this beautiful granddaughter of yours who was 7 years old at the time, and you guys had your family Bible, and
Yep.
she was the one that swore you in. So that tells me you are a family of faith, and
Yes.
that you value family. So for her, seeing her Gigi, her grandma, become the first female sheriff, what does that what does that do for you, understanding? Does she understand the significance of that whole day?
So, Anna was 7 when I was running for office, and my sister and my daughter, and my granddaughter, Anna, all helped me in my process. And Anna, I mean, she was out there campaigning for me, holding signs, wearing my shirt. So she went through that whole campaign process at the age of 7. So I think she has a pretty good idea of what hard work will get you, I guess is a good way to put it. I don't know that Anna at 7 genuinely understood the significance of a woman being elected sheriff. I know she looks up at me because I'm a grandma, and and it's a family with strong women in it, and so I think she understands that part. I don't think she genuinely at 7 understood the significance. At 10, going on 11, she absolutely does. In that time frame between 7 and 10, she has experienced at her school, she's experienced both racial and sexual discrimination. Because the fact that she is biracial, she had some challenges with a teacher because she was one of only 3 or 4 children in the school that were non-white. Okay. And so she experienced it, and she had to figure out how to navigate that. And then she's also had been told that she couldn't do things because she was a girl, and so she's experienced that now. So I think she really has a better understanding of the significance of me being the top cop. I just, she's a pistol, and she's smart. And I believe that someday she's going to be running this world, her and all the girls like her.
That's right. So maybe I understand then the significance of the mug she gave you. Was it Boss Lady that she
Boss. Oh yeah, boss lady. Yes.
did she give you that?
Yes, Anna bought me the boss lady. And because she does understand who the boss is, and she just thinks it's cool that it's a woman.
I think it's pretty cool as well. So tell Anna to I can't wait to see her as president. She has my vote.
Well, don't be surprised.
I did see also in the newspaper article that you wrote here, there's nothing wrong with being a cop and being a girl. Because a lot of times for women, we feel like we have to choose between, being lipstick and fingernail polish. Right.
So when I started 32 years ago, I felt like I had to conform to the men. Okay. So I didn't wear very much makeup. I kept my nails short, didn't wear nail polish. Whenever I went out, I was always dressed in basically a pantsuit. I was not myself. I was doing it to try to fit in. And the reality is, as time went on, I realized it didn't matter what I did, I was never going to fit in. I am my own self. I am a girly girl. I like, if you can see them, I like my nails. I wear my makeup. I wear perfume. And when occasionally, when the occasion provides, I wear dresses and kind of frilly because I am a girly girl. But at the same time, don't think that I can't, that I'm not strong. I mean, I'm still lifting weights. I'm 65, but I'm still lifting weights. I work out with a trainer once a week, and he's got me lifting 160-pound deadlifts, and I'm pushing on it's called a sled, but I'm pushing 550 pounds. So I'm not weak. So just because I'm little and I'm girly doesn't mean I'm weak. And so I say that to all the women, be yourself. Don't let anyone else tell you how you're supposed to be. Our Creator made us this way. He made us this way for a reason. Be yourself. And I like being a girly girl, and there's nothing wrong with being a girl and being a cop.
I love it. And it's really true because again, we want all the women to know that they can do this job, that you can have fingernail polish, that you can put your lipstick on as long as you're able to handle your business, when business needs to be handled, then there's room enough for all of us here. Makeup, no makeup, dress, pants, there's room for you here.
Absolutely.
And Cheryl, how do you, when they see you and understand, that you can be a girl and be in law enforcement, are you finding that in your department are more women coming to your department because they see you there?
Yes. Yes, we have gained women in the organization. And the other thing is that women are beginning to take our supervisory exams. Where before they were kind of hesitant and stand back, we're getting more women taking the exams and passing them. When I began, we had one female supervisor in this organization, and the organization was bigger then than it is now. And we had one. And we were told as women that the reason why we only had one was because we never scored high enough. So a bunch of us then took the test and scored high enough, and they still passed us over. So, the thing is, women need to step up. If you can't see women moving through organizations, they don't take that first step. And they need not be afraid. They need to do it. You've got to take the first exam to be a sergeant, and then you got to keep on taking those exams and fighting your way to the top. If that's what you want. But if you don't do it, you're not going to pave the way for other women to be able to do it. Our children and grandchildren are not going to get here if we don't pave the way.
That's good advice. And it's really up to us to pave the way. And like you said before, as we're going up, to bring somebody else up with us, to plan ahead for that succession planning, so that as we promote up, someone else is qualified and can take our seat. That is really important, that we do those things for ourselves as women. And really, it's not just for women, it helps everyone. I'm not sure if you've heard of the 30 by 30 initiative, but this 30 by 30 initiative is an initiative that happened about 2 years ago, where more women, the focus is agencies pledging that they will focus to get more women into their departments. The goal is to have 30% female representation by the year 2030. And what they've done is had lots of research, and the research has shown that if you have 30% women in law enforcement in these agencies, they have found that uses of force go down, there's more de-escalation, and victims of violent crimes like rape are more apt to talk to women officers. And so more crimes are solved when you have at least 30% of women in law enforcement. Now, I'll be very honest, right now we have about 12, 13% law enforcement or female representation in our department. So we still have a lot of room to grow in our department. Are you finding, is your department about 13, 14%? And what other things are you all doing to get more women on board?
We are 26.4% women. I have I'm going to say roughly 1/3 of my supervision in law enforcement are women. Most of those I've promoted. But the reason why we are better is because, and in the last couple of years, I think it's better because I've been very intentional. I went out and we got a grant to help us with our recruiting, and it was specifically targeted to women and minorities. And our minorities and women have in fact grown. I don't think that our women have grown as much as the minorities have grown. We really changed, improved our minorities, especially in men, but women, it's been harder to get women to come in. And yet we are specifically targeting them. I'm out there, and so are my other female leaders. We are out there actively recruiting in every domain: job and family services, going to high schools, colleges, women's events. We recruit women. Well, I recruit everybody, but we recruit women everywhere that we go. Well, that's true. I go to get my oil changed in my car, and I'm trying to recruit the guy and the girl that are working at the oil change place. I recruit when I'm at the nail salon. I recruit at the hair salon. I mean, when I'm shopping and at the grocery store, I see somebody, I'm recruiting. So, and I think that that's how you have to be everywhere you go, because I love what I do. I genuinely love law enforcement. And more importantly, I love the sheriff's office. I am so proud of the history of the sheriff's offices across the nation, and who we are and what we stand for and what we do for that is so different than other police departments. And so I have a lot of love for us. And so I think that somehow we've got to get women to not be afraid and to step up. This is an incredible career. Single mothers, in my personal opinion, law enforcement, sheriff's offices especially, one of the best places you could go, because you can start out in some areas that are a little bit less dangerous and more secure when your children are young. And then as they grow, you can continue to grow and expand out into other areas within the organization. You know, in every organization it's different, but I really believe that this is the perfect job for a woman, especially a single parent. Well, I'll tell you what, one of the things that we need to do is we need to advocate for childcare for first responders. I've been going at our county executive's office, because we're a charter form of government, so we're a little different than most places. But I've been going after them and telling them that they need to have a first responders daycare or a countywide daycare for all employees of the county, but most specifically first responders, fire, police, dispatch. That those entities, because they're 24 hours, we needed a countywide county employee daycare for our kids, because there are single parents that are men as well. And if we had something like that in every county where your first responders had 24-hour daycare, and the only other children that were there were other first responders' children, I think that it would make a huge difference. Daycare is a big thing.
I think you're 100% correct. It's funny that you say that, because in San Francisco, the sheriff's office and the San Francisco Police Department, we are working together to try to get a childcare for law enforcement. Now, it wouldn't be for fire yet, and that's because in San Diego, they just opened up a law enforcement, San Diego PD, childcare for their law enforcement officers.
Wow.
And so we want to have a pilot program, and we're hoping that the Board of Supervisors and all those in San Francisco will understand, just like you said, how important it is that we in law enforcement have childcare where our moms, our dads, those who take care of their children know that they're being taken care of and not being discriminated against because their parents are law enforcement. As you know, some people don't like law enforcement, and so we need childcare. And I'm happy that you said that, because now I understand it's not only out here that we're advocating for that, but in the East Coast as well. You all are saying the same thing. We need childcare for our first responders, and especially for our law enforcement, because we work these long hours. That is so true, to get more, especially single women, but people onto our departments.
I agree. It's really a big issue because in law enforcement, if you get ordered over, um, childcare becomes a real issue, depending on where your child is at. And obviously, if your child becomes ill during your shift, and you've got to wait for a replacement to leave, that it's a big thing. I really think that if we could, as a nation, if we could address that from a first responders category, police and dispatch especially, I think it would open up more opportunity for people to come into the profession.
I agree. Sheriff Fatheree, your life is so rich. When you're talking, you can talk from a single mom because you've been there, a single parent. You're divorced but remarried and been married for 30 years. So in law enforcement, as you know, a lot of people don't make it 30 years. So you could speak from a rich place of how you were able to keep that together for so long. You really value your family, your faith, you work out. How are you able, because I know you told me earlier, you'll basically be out until 9 o'clock tonight, your time. How are you able to do all of these things and do them well?
I don't know that I always do them well, but so there, you have to make a priority in your personal life, what is important to you, and faith, family, and my employment. Okay, faith always is there, and I think that it goes hand in hand with my family. I do my best to be present when I'm with my family, and to be available or respond as soon as possible to my family when they call. I think that you just have to make priorities. And then of course I do work out. I try to take care of myself. I told you that I have those fancy lights that go out all the time. Anyway, I try to take care of myself. So I do work out. It makes me feel good. It keeps me strong. I have good nutrition. So it's just being intentional in those things. And I just happen to have a very high energy. I think that when I'm at work, I'm at work. And when I'm at home, I'm at home. And I don't take myself seriously. And I can tell you, my husband does not take me seriously. He doesn't take life seriously. He's funny, he's entertaining, he's understanding, and believe it or not, he's law enforcement. I met him in the academy in 1992 when I was a single parent. So we understand what each other has gone through, and we leave work at work. And I learned something very important from my father. He said, pick and choose your battles wisely. Don't argue over something trivial. If you're going to have an argument, make sure that it's a good one.
That's very good advice. And I'm gonna have to take that up one day. I'm looking on the chat. I don't see any questions. I do want to tell people this is the time. So if there are any questions that you want to ask, this is the time to write them in so that we can get your voices heard. As you can tell, Sheriff Fatheree has a wealth of information, and she's basically touched on a lot of different aspects that we all, as people, as women, single, divorced, children, grandchildren, she has a lot of expertise in that, and is the sheriff of Summit County, still holding it down. And Sheriff, how are you able, because this is a big thing in law enforcement, it's a naughty word, accountability. In law enforcement, I really believe that we need to make sure that there's a level of accountability that we have in our departments. How are you able to hold people accountable? As a woman, is it a different way that you deliver the message? How are you able to do this?
Well, part of it is delivering the message, but if you have accountability, if you set a standard, and you don't deviate from that standard, and regardless of who it is, if you hold all people accountable the same, so just treating people fairly and the same, but also I think that you have to let people know what your expectations are, and what you're willing to accept and not accept. And most of the people in my organization have known that I'm no nonsense. I have a very high standard. I expect that law enforcement, especially, that they are held to a higher accountability than the average public, because, as I remind them, we are the only people in the nation that have the ability to take a person's freedom and ultimately their life. And when you place that in somebody's hands, they better be above reproach. They better be holding themselves at a very high standard. And so I have high standards, and I try to impart that on everyone else and remind them just what I said. Law enforcement is the one unique profession that can take not only your freedom, but your life. And you better be on your game. You better be holding the line, and you better have high morals, high standards. You better be ethical, honest, have good character. Those are the things that you need to have. And if a single slip, I mean, and we all make mistakes. You have to take each situation on its own. But ultimately, if that mistake is going to dirty the name of all other law enforcement, then there's a serious accountability that has to happen. So I've fired people because, and I've taken a lot of heat from it, because they weren't living up to what they should have been living up to, the standards. And I'm not dropping my standards for somebody else. They need to come.
I love that, Sheriff Fatheree. You are a courageous leader. And for those who don't understand, courageous leaders, they stand on their own. They don't need people to support them in the sense of, when they know what's right, they're willing to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. I really appreciate you saying that, with the morals, with the ethics, because it really starts with us in law enforcement. When we're looking for other people to come into our departments, we should exude and represent just what you said, a person of morals and ethics, doing the right thing, being a person of integrity. If we represent those things, then we will attract those people into our departments. So that's really crucial in what you're saying. I do have someone with a question here, and it says, how do you stay motivated during long shifts? Especially, you have been working in law enforcement for over 30 years. So all of this time working for 30 years, how are you staying motivated during these long hours?
I think for me, I think it goes back to what happened to me at the age of 9. It's hard to describe, but I have a burning desire inside of me, and it's like deep inside my soul. I genuinely want to make life better for everyone. It's just in me, and I don't know how to describe it, but that drive is so embedded that even when I'm tired, it still keeps me going. I have so many things that, as you know, in our world right now, we have so many things that need fixing. I don't know what it's like there, but here in Akron, Ohio, we have a mentally ill, homeless population, and veterans that are mentally ill and homeless, and they offend, and they come in and out of our jail. And so I've got this deep desire to help these individuals to have a better life. And so that burning desire that's deep inside of me, it just keeps on propelling me. And then, of course, at the end of the day, I will tell you, I go home and I just crash, crash and burn, sleep deep, get up the next day, and we have a new day. But really, it's that burning desire to have positive change in our community and in people's lives.
Wow. I'm
Ah.
feasting again. I'm feasting again. I have there's chiefs on this call right now, and Chief French, she says we need more courageous leaders like yourself. She's one of them, and I am so appreciative of her being on here supporting Transformational Tuesdays. But we really appreciate women like yourself, women like Chief French, who are courageous leaders, who are able to say, I have a high standard. I'm not willing to lower my standard because, as you know, we need more people in law enforcement who are able to do the job the way we see fit. Like you said, succession planning, putting people in places, key places, to make sure that uses of excessive force doesn't happen, that uses of force do go down, that de-escalation is being used. We are our best models and role models for the new generation. So as we're buttoning this up, Sheriff, I would like for you to give advice to chiefs and sheriffs who may be on this call and the new deputies and officers that are just starting out. What advice would you give? Because they're two very different groups of people. What advice would you give these two buckets of people?
Probably nothing more than what I've already said. Know yourself, be yourself, stand strong, don't let anyone divert you, and don't let anyone tear you down. Always keep your eye on your prize. That's the way and keep the blinders on. Don't let anybody stop you. You have to, at the end of the day, when we leave this earth, your soul has to know in your heart that you did everything that you could, and that you became everything that you were capable of becoming because you did it. And you leave this place a better place than you came in. And you always help somebody else. In law enforcement, it really is about public service. It's about loving the people that you're supposed to be protecting. And you should never lose sight of that. But at the same time, don't let anybody stop you as you continue to move through your career, whatever your path is. And if you fall down on your knees and you need a little pick-me-up, there are lots of women around you that all you have to do is reach out, put a hand up and say, I need a helping hand, and they will be there to pick you up. Sometimes we need to be carried by others for just a few steps and then drop back down on our feet for us to continue to run.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that wisdom. And I really thank you for just being vulnerable, being open and honest, sharing your life, your passion, your calling. That's what I call it. You have a higher calling and you have this purpose. And God knew exactly where you needed to be at just the right time. And I really appreciate you just having this honest, open conversation about your life and how you promoted to the top. And so I hope this encouraged some other people to understand that we all have a purpose, that we all have been called. And if you are in law enforcement right now, you have been called for a purpose. You are a public servant. You are serving people, helping people, getting people where they need to go when need be. But I'm hoping that as we are redefining what law enforcement looks like in the 21st century, that you are listening to these phenomenal female leaders and understanding that we need to have our standard to be high, that we need to be moral and ethical people, and never forget your purpose. Stay focused and keep pushing forward. Any last words, Sheriff?
No, but thank you so much for having me on here. And you asked some really good questions.
Thank you. With that, we will hopefully see all of you next Tuesday for another phenomenal leader. Please come back. Transformational Tuesdays. This shouldn't be. There's so many amazing women out there. We can do this all day long, but we really appreciate you, Sheriff, for being on today. And we hope to see you all back next Tuesday. So with that, be safe, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.